I never imagined neighborhood politics could put my actual health in danger, but that's exactly what happened last summer. I had moved into Sycamore Heights about 6 months earlier, a charming suburban enclave of manicured lawns, identical mailboxes, and, unfortunately, an HOA that ruled with an iron fist. The president, Karen Whitfield, had turned micromanagement into an Olympic event. From the very first week, she found fault with everything I did. My garbage cans stayed visible from the street for 10 minutes too long on collection day. The trim on my house was Navajo white instead of the approved creamy eggshell. My holiday decorations somehow violated an obscure subsection of the community guidelines. I tried to be agreeable at first, but it quickly became obvious that nothing would ever satisfy her. Karen, a woman in her mid-50s, wore the quintessential blonde highlighted bob and drove a white Lexus SUV with a custom plate reading HOA Boss. Clipboard in one hand and a measuring tape in the other, she patrolled the neighborhood like a self-appointed sheriff. She'd been president for 8 consecutive years, mainly because no one else wanted the job, and partly because anyone who challenged her mysteriously ended up drowning in violation notices. For a while, I managed to stay off her radar by complying with her absurd rules. But that ended the day I installed a small parcel box beside my front door. Since I travel often for work and had lost several deliveries to theft, I decided to buy a secure lockbox that matched my house perfectly and blended into the porch design. 3 days later, I found a bright orange notice taped to my door. Unapproved exterior modification. Remove immediately or face daily fines of $100. Annoyed but not shocked, I followed the official process and submitted a retroactive approval. Request to the HOA's Architectural Committee, complete with photos and specs. The committee approved it, which should have settled everything, but Karen wasn't done. At the next HOA meeting, she overrode their decision, claiming emergency powers as president. Yes, she actually said that, emergency powers, over a package box. Afterward, I tried to reason with her, explaining that I needed the box for my prescription deliveries. I have a chronic condition that requires specialty medication shipped directly from a pharmacy. Karen waved her hand dismissively. Rules are rules, she said. If we let you have your little box, soon everyone will want one and our community aesthetic will be ruined. Besides, you can just pick up your medication like a normal person. I explained, as calmly as I could, that the medication wasn't available at local pharmacies and that delivery was the only option. Her lips curled into a condescending smile. That sounds like a you problem, not an HOA problem, she said. That was the moment I decided I wasn't backing down. My health depended on it, and the committee had already approved the installation. I refused to remove the box. True to her word, Karen began issuing daily fines. After 2 weeks, I received a certified letter stating that I owed $1,400 and had 48 hours to pay or face further action. I contacted an attorney who specialized in HOA disputes. After reviewing the bylaws, he confirmed what I already suspected. Karen had no such emergency powers, and the committee's approval was final. He sent a strongly worded letter to the board, and I assumed that would put an end to the madness. I couldn't have been more wrong. The very next day, I left for a 3-day business trip. Before departing, I made sure everything was in perfect order. Lawn mowed, trash bins hidden, no violations in sight. My monthly medication shipment was due during my trip, but I wasn't worried. That's exactly why I'd installed the box. When I returned home late Friday night, something immediately felt off. My package box was gone, not damaged or forced open, completely removed, as if it had never been there. In its place, laminated against the rain, was a notice stating that the HOA had exercised its right to remedy the violation. I was livid but too exhausted to argue. I decided to deal with it in the morning and retrieve my medication from the HOA office. But when I went there the next day, the office was closed for the weekend, and my package was nowhere to be found. According to the delivery tracker, it had been dropped off 2 days earlier. Panic set in as I searched around my property, hoping the courier had left it somewhere safe. Nothing. Finally, I went to Karen's house, trying my best to stay composed. She opened the door in her tennis outfit, visor and all, and I asked politely about my missing package. Her smirk widened. "Oh, that," she said, feigning concern. "It was sitting out there for days. An eyesore, really. Probably would have attracted thieves to our neighborhood. I disposed of it." My blood ran cold. "You disposed of my medication? Do you have any idea how serious that is? Those are controlled substances that I need to function. They cost over $1,000 and I can't just replace them." Karen's face hardened. "You should have thought of that before violating our community standards. Besides, I did you a favor. If you're receiving mysterious, unmarked packages, who knows what's actually in them? For all I know, you could be running some kind of drug operation." I stared at her, stunned. "It wasn't unmarked. It had pharmacy labels all over it. You had no right to take my property, let alone dispose of my prescription medication." She folded her arms, her tone ice cold. "You can take that up with the board. Now, I have a tennis match to get to, so if you'll excuse me." She started to shut the door, but I placed my hand against it, not forcefully, just firmly enough to stop it. "Karen, this is serious. I need my medication. Where did you put it?" Her eyes widened theatrically. "Are you threatening me? Remove your hand from my door immediately or I'll call the police," she shouted, loud enough for the neighbors to hear. I stepped back, realizing things were spiraling out of control. "I'm not threatening you. I just need my medication back. This isn't about the HOA anymore. It's about my health." "I already told you I disposed of it," she said, wearing a look of satisfaction. "Maybe next time you'll think twice before breaking the rules." Then she slammed the door in my face. I stood there, stunned. Without my medication, I was facing at least 2 weeks before my next refill could even be authorized. Desperate, I called my specialty pharmacy to explain what had happened, praying for an emergency exception. Sarah, the pharmacist, sounded horrified. "Wait, someone deliberately took and disposed of your medication? That's not just inconsiderate, that's illegal. Tampering with prescription medication is a serious offense, especially considering the kind you're prescribed." I hadn't even thought about the legal implications. I was only worried about my health. What should I do? My insurance won't cover another refill for 2 weeks. Her tone shifted to one of determination. "First, you need to report this to the police. This is theft and possible tampering with controlled substances. I'll document everything from our end, including delivery confirmation. Don't worry about the refill. We can request an emergency override from your insurance." That afternoon, I filed a police report. At first, the officer seemed skeptical, until I showed him the HOA violation notices, my lawyer's letter, and the delivery confirmation from the pharmacy. After that, he took detailed notes and promised an investigation. The next morning, Sunday, I was still trying to figure out my next steps when noise outside drew my attention. I looked out the window just in time to see Karen being escorted to a police car in handcuffs, still wearing her Sunday church dress. Several neighbors watched from their driveways, some not even bothering to hide their satisfaction. Later, I found out that Sarah had gone above and beyond. She'd provided police with documentation proving the medications were controlled substances, which made the case far more serious. When questioned, Karen admitted she'd taken the package, but claimed she'd thrown it in the dumpster because she thought it contained contraband. Unfortunately, the dumpster had already been emptied. The medication was gone for good. Karen was charged with theft, mail tampering, and interference with the distribution of controlled substances. Because my medication required special handling and fell under federal regulations, what might have been a petty theft became a major criminal case. Police also discovered several other stolen packages in her garage. Apparently, I wasn't her first victim, just the first with evidence strong enough to bring consequences. The district attorney decided to make an example of her, given the seriousness of the crime. Karen ultimately pled guilty to reduced charges, but still faced a $5,000 fine, 2 years of probation, and restitution for the cost of all the items she'd taken. The final blow came at the emergency HOA board meeting the following week. Karen was unanimously voted out as president. As she left the community center after the vote, her confidence shattered. She passed by me. The woman who had been so smug and untouchable just days earlier couldn't even meet my eyes. "I never thought they'd actually arrest me over a stupid package," she muttered, voice trembling. "It was just a box."